Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, how you doing? Welcome on to the program. Today on the show we have computer and technology news, and we have a ton of different stories. Everything from updates, including this whole reaction to Apple and what they're doing with the CSAM, as they called it, to prevent child abuse. Happening on iOS. There's that. There's, of course, updates to, Tesla and the Cybertruck and how it's being delayed by another year. We have everything, including hackers and the recent Gigabyte ransomware attack that happened. There's a lot going on out there, and we're going to try to do our best to catch up and start the week off with, just some nice, easy listening. And, of course, some rumors, some tech tips, stuff like that. Everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows. I know it hasn't been updated in a little bit, but we are working on that, and we should have that up and running this week with a lot of our recent past shows. But everyone, still the best place to go, computeramerica.com. And if you can't catch us live on IRN, then, of course, the podcast is the next best place to catch us. You can find that wherever podcasts are heard, or go on over to computeramerica.com, and it'll be all right there under syndication. You'll also find helpful links. We have something that I'm quite proud of, and we try to keep up to date as best we can, is the helpful links, and it's this master list of all the free software out there and all the really cool places around the internet that include just everything from kind of self-learning, self-improvement, to useful tools, to things for research, things for art programs, things for music and video programs. Just anything and everything that you could possibly want is on that master list, and that, of course, is updated there. You can find that very simple, and it's we put some effort into that, so definitely go check that out. Now, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with today's show with computer and technology news, brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So I think that for our first story, we're going to go ahead and how about Facebook. And this was a story that I wanted to cover last week, but I never really got a chance to, and then the weekend came, and here we are. But this is a pretty good resource to it, but I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it by now with Facebook and everything that's happening with that, and the fact that, well, they're going through, they're facing some scrutiny, which is always good. When you're Facebook, they're very powerful, very influential. And let's face it, it is the modern town square. There is a lot of conversation happening there, and I think that any kind of scrutiny or just studying trends, studying data is very important, because we are entering a stage in it's kind of abstract to say it, but we're entering a stage in humanity where you really have to start to think, what are the true consequences of moving all of this conversation online? More people are connecting, more people are talking, there's more exchange of ideas, and of course, not all of those ideas are, good, not all of them are always correct, or, things like that, but hey, that's the point of free expression between people, is that, hey, it doesn't have to be purely curated. And I think that people also need to realize that you don't have to believe everything that you see on social media. Now, in really measuring that is where the heart of this article comes from, where Facebook has shut down political ad research, daring authorities to pursue regulation. And I don't think that Facebook, and I may be wrong about this, but Facebook never really came out and said, stop doing that. And, if you don't like it, go ahead and regulate us. So they weren't really daring it, but more to the fact, and just so everyone is, kind of as I understand it, and then we'll get to the article, but as I understand it, Facebook pulled their API permissions for a research group out of the, this is the Ad Observatory out of New York University. And they pulled that because it violated the social media platform's terms of service by scraping user data without permission. And that's, they kind of had to, because Facebook was not going to turn over all of that research and, kind of how many people looked at certain ads, how many people were, sharing these ads or things like that. Well, they launched a browser add-on back in 2020 asking people to install the browser add-on, allow permissions, and of course by integrating with the add-on that people were downloading allowed the researchers to collect data about personal accounts, pages, apps, and access to his platform. And, just so much data about political ads that users see on Facebook. So it would monitor a lot, but it was obviously opt-in and people could do that. Now, the ad tried to scrape as much data as possible, and again, because it's a university research group, they wanted to collect a lot of data as fast as they could about politics and COVID-19. Obviously, 2020 had a lot of both. Facebook came in and said, you are collecting this for, not the right reasons, or rather, you're doing it in an illegal way, because it's not just about just carte blanche, just scrape as much data as you want. No, to Facebook, they are upholding their terms of service in the whole deal here by saying, your mission is not in our users' best interest. We're going to revoke your access to our API. Completely their prerogative to, but because of the nature, because of what they were studying and how they were studying it, well, people took exception to this, because they said, they revoked permission for an app that was trying to, kind of fact check or hold Facebook accountable for the types of ads and the amount of ads that were being shared on its platform. So Facebook obviously said, this app is outside of our terms of service, so we're going to shut it down. And everyone else said, oh, Facebook shut down something that was trying to put a check on Facebook. Therefore, Facebook is, essentially silencing their critics in one foul swoop. Let's remove this image from the video portion, which is, of course, just Mark Zuckerberg heavily granulated. There you go. Very disturbing. But still, yeah, the article here, this is from Mashable, and they're saying that Facebook, as I said before, blocked it based on those permissions, but the academics behind the Ad Observatory say they got permission from everyone who uses the browser add-on, and Facebook's attempt to stop their research has more sinister roots in the platform trying to stop the academics from exposing the problem. I wish that, especially for academics, I wish that Facebook made this data just just available. Now, I know that there would be a lot of problems with it. To allow that kind of access to that many users would have a lot of vulnerabilities. People sharing that kind of private data would not be safe in so many regards. But for research groups to kind of do it this way, it does bend the rules a little bit over the purpose of the API, which is, for everyone out there that does not know, kind of what an API is. Let's say you create an app. Let's say you have, the next food delivery service, and you want to integrate with the Facebook API so that people can log in with Facebook. They can, kind of use their hometown to deliver local restaurants. So that would also be done through the Facebook API. You wanted to give Facebook reviews of particular businesses. That would also be something that the Facebook API would be able to deliver to your app. These are some of the, as Facebook would see it, legitimate uses of a Facebook API, but then you have illegitimate uses, which be, let's say you have the food delivery app that has Facebook integration, and you decided you want to collect people's genders, age, and political leanings, stuff like that. Maybe friends and family and other connections, things that aren't strictly related to the day-to-day data that you need to accomplish your mission. So Facebook would potentially pull your permissions from the API for violating their terms of service. Now, they're saying that, and this is from the New York University researcher, saying that by suspending our accounts, Facebook has effectively ended all this work. Facebook has also effectively cut off access to more than 24 other researchers and journalists who get access to Facebook data through our project, including our work measuring vaccine misinformation with the Virality Project and many other partners who rely on this data. The work our team does to make data about disinformation on Facebook transparent is vital to a healthy internet and a healthy democracy. Completely agree. And as far as regulators go, I feel like that should be something that Facebook has to report anyways. They have this data. It's sitting on their servers, and they definitely use it to sell ads and to, kind of push people to buy things, to push sellers to, of course, use their platform. They have the data, and if they could hand it over and be able to monitor, kind of a healthy online ecosystem where so many people are turning to social media to get their news as opposed to more traditional sources like, newspapers or television or so on and so forth. Newspapers and television are very heavily regulated. You have to be careful what you say, and you have to designate if something is news, if something is entertainment, if something is purely or a little bit of mix of both. And you have to be careful about what you say, how you say it, when you say it, because a long time ago, regulators realized that, hey, saying things without oversight to a massive audience has repercussions that can cause huge damage, especially with spread of false information. Sounds familiar? Well, the internet is quickly heading that way. Now, in the aftermath of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, it's reasonable that Facebook might be nervous about third parties, which, yeah, that's very true. But again, they don't have a completely bogus argument for blocking these accounts. They do have a sliver of land to stand on, or ground to stand on, to ban these accounts. Now, yeah, let's go ahead and continue on. They're saying that Facebook spokesperson Joe Osborne later told Wired that the consent decree itself wasn't the reason for the actions taken against the NYU researchers. Instead, he noted that the decree required that Facebook create rules for a private program that the researchers violated, according to Reuters. The FTC acknowledged Facebook's response in a letter to Mark Zuckerberg, but acting director also pointed out that the revised explanation doesn't change much, saying, quote, "Had you honored your commitment to contact us in advance, we would have pointed out that the consent decree does not bar Facebook from creating exceptions for good faith research in the public interest," which, because it does not waive that possibility, this does seem like a perfect opportunity to waive the rules for the public interest. Absolutely. They later wrote, indeed, the FTC supports efforts to shed light on opaque business practices, especially around surveillance-based advertising, which Facebook is. While it's not our role to resolve individual disputes between Facebook and third parties, we hope that the company is not invoking privacy, much less the FTC consent order, as a pretext to advance their aims. That is completely fair, and again, that's from the acting director. The acting director, Samuel Levine, for the FTC. So obviously Facebook came out and used this consent decree from the Federal Trade Commission to say that, they blocked it because the FTC made us, because of all the things I was saying earlier. But it looks like even the FTC came out and said, don't lay it on our feet. You could have made an exception and no one would have called you on it. Now, Facebook appears to be hiding behind a consent decree that doesn't actually work in this case. And still, there are few paths forward for Facebook or the NYU Ad Observatory at this time, since neither has any real reason to move to the other side. Now, when it comes to something like this, with regulators and intent and so on and so forth, all it takes is like one kind of middling manager to look at this one account, which again serviced one research group, so maybe 3 or 4 research candidates, and then a couple of dozen others that Facebook had no idea of knowing that there was like a pipeline of information that was flowing from this. They saw one individual group registered with the New York University, I'm sure, in some regards, and said, they're pulling a lot of data from our servers, and they never got express permission. They probably didn't go through and contact them, ask them, hey, what's up? What are you doing? They probably didn't do any kind of due diligence for closing this account, because Facebook has a lot of users. It has millions of customers, let alone billions of users. They're not going to take the time to really dig into each violation of their contract and go, are they violating our rules for the correct reason? And then, of course, it only takes a couple of seconds for someone just above the middling manager to go, we pulled that because of the FTC decree that happened out there. So I feel like this was a series of not missteps, but very, very clear, just kind of shut it down rather than ask, why are you doing that? That is, as much as you hate it, that might be the best route for Facebook to take, is to err on the side of not to do something, as opposed to let anyone do what they want with it, and then start asking why. Now, they say that this whole situation is basically daring U.S. authorities to finally pursue regulation. The Verge's Casey Newton pointed out that the best way to force big tech companies and researchers to work with each other is for Congress to pass privacy legislation with a dedicated space for academic researchers and an agency that would do oversight of that research and of online platforms. That is some of the most pie in the sky thinking. I love that they, kind of shout each other out, and hopefully Casey Newton, if you're hearing this, that would be amazing. If there was some kind of committee that would oversee all this research, that universities and good faith research could continue with access to even more information than what they can just kind of, on the sideline kind of scrape from profiles and from these ad accounts. If they were given access to all of the data that they possibly, that Facebook has, and then of course, to make sure that no one misused it, there would be an oversight committee that would make sure that nothing bad would happen. Great blue skying. Would it actually happen? Business says no, and I really doubt that the FTC or the FCC or anyone else who might have jurisdiction over this is looking to do that. And especially whenever, I mention this often, whenever there is regulation about Facebook, guess who's sitting at the table shooting down ideas? It's Mark Zuckerberg saying, oh no, that won't work for us. I really highly doubt that would actually happen, but great blue sky. Now, some politicians appear to agree. They mentioned Mark Warner, a Democrat who represents Virginia, called on Congress to act to bring greater transparency to the shadowy world of online advertising. And they also mentioned that, sorry about that, Senator Ron Wyden, an Oregon Democrat, tweeted that Facebook claim that the tool potentially violated privacy law was a bogus excuse. Again, I don't think it was completely bogus, but the justification for it was flimsy and kind of probably misinterpreted, but you can see how the interpretation happened. I don't think it was completely bogus, but there was definitely not a lot of thought put into it. It was more of a just shut it down rather than, again, letting it continue. Now, they say that but public statements aren't the same things as laws or legislation, and a staff attorney for the Columbia University Knight's First Amendment Institute told NPR that the entire situation is proof that lawmakers need to do something, which happens so often around here that, legislators need to do something about big tech. In what form? And of course, with social media, how does that happen? We have not seen yet. And honestly, the research group from the New York University and other research groups around the country, you don't know what really needs to happen, because you can slap all this stuff out of Facebook's hands. You could say, don't touch that, do this, do that. You really don't know the true source of the problem and the true extent of the problem with social media until you start to dig into the data, until you start to measure and quantify the issues with Facebook. You can't tell Facebook how to properly handle things. So the first step is studying it, and that's where the legislation to allow people to have access to that data is important. Now, Facebook's never going to give that up willingly. They know that any kind of really truly good-spirited sharing of their secret sauce that they have kind of going on there with Facebook and so on and so forth, any kind of secret sauce that they kind of share, they know that they are inviting regulation, because any kind of extreme scrutiny of their practices, not the best look for them. So there you go. That's our first story. And my whole take on it is that middle management shut down this whole thing. Maybe it was some IT worker, maybe it was some API tech support kind of dude who was like, these people are pulling down a lot of data, and that's not right. Because again, ever since Cambridge Analytica, they probably are hypersensitive to groups pulling excessive data that they don't really need. This is probably in response to Cambridge Analytica, and it's probably the correct response that no one should, Facebook aside, no one individual group, regardless of what they claim to be, should be given just complete access to everything. Because Cambridge Analytica, just even saying the name and hearing it, you think Analytica, analytics, you think Cambridge University, you would think that would be a legitimate organization to share information with. But, and again, just at first glance, but nope. They definitely misused. They used that information to mislead Americans across the country about elections and these kinds of things. So, I understand their stance. I think that Facebook could have made a better exception, but I also don't think this went all the way up to Mark Zuckerberg. I don't even think it went even a couple of rungs below Mark Zuckerberg. This was probably shut down, and I'm honestly surprised that Facebook hasn't come out and said, we're changing our policy. We were wrong in this decision. It was a misstep. We're going to do that. But as the article also mentions here, there's not a lot of reason to actually go back and do that. There's not a lot of goodwill between Facebook and researchers. So there you go. Story number one. And that was just a whole mess. So there's that one, and then the other kind of long-ish one I wanted to get into had to do with Apple. Apple, and they have come out to further quantify their stance on CSAM, which is, and CSAM was this whole series of changes that they have proposed coming to iOS, iPad, so on and so forth, about child sexual abuse material, or CSAM as they call it, because it's a little bit better than child pornography, and of course it covers a bit more photos than just simply child pornography. So Apple came out with this whole stance against CSAM, which is pretty obvious, but they were working with the National Institute for Missing and Exploited Children. Essentially, if there was like a selfie or a picture taken of someone in the the Center for Child Exploitation, or whatever it is, then it would be flagged. It would let the parent account know. It could be forwarded on to Apple. Then Apple could forward it on to law enforcement and investigators. And they're hoping to kind of close the gap on people sharing images or inappropriate videos or whatever on iOS, and hopefully find some of these kids, find these missing persons, and put a stop to this, at least on Apple's platform, as privately as possible. And privacy was, kind of at the forethought of what Apple was trying to do here. Even in their own statement, they're saying that our goal is to create technology that empowers people and enriches their lives while helping them stay safe. We want to protect children from predators who use communication tools to recruit and exploit them, and limit the spread of child sexual abuse material. Now, after acknowledging that some people have had concerns about how it will do this, the company says it put together the document to address these questions and provide more clarity and transparency in the process. And they mentioned that the CSAM protection, which scans photos, and that is the part where most people are getting caught up on. As soon as they hear that Apple is scanning their photos, they're going, oh no, everything in my library is suddenly uploaded to an Apple server, and Apple owns all my selfies or other pictures that people may have in their camera roll. But no, that's not really the case. They're saying that it's designed to keep CSAM off iCloud photos without providing information to Apple about any photos other than those that match CSAM images. It adds that even possessing those images is illegal in most countries, including the US. So that's the key point here. And I guess that's why they have to work so closely with law enforcement on this one, is that if Apple were to take these photos, upload them to, kind of the Apple cloud, the iCloud, and, kind of hold them for law enforcement to kind of look at them, if that were to happen, and let's say there is a small number of people who have these images on their phones, which, clearly Apple is considering that there are by rolling a system like this out. If Apple were to recover those photos and keep them on their servers, Apple would be hit with the biggest lawsuit in the world, because they would be one of the biggest repositories for CSAM, or child sexual abuse material, because they would have all those photos. Instead, there's this convoluted system of privacy, encryption, kind of storing these things, and hashing, comparing them to other encrypted photos, so that no one at Apple is going to get in and find this massive treasure trove of very inappropriate material. Instead, it's going to be, a series of numbers, and not even images, just encoded images that no one can ever look at again, but they're still able to catch the people that are able to do this. Now, they said that Apple says that the feature will not have any impact on to any other on-device data, and it does not apply to messages. It also stresses that it will refuse any demands from governments looking to expand features that include non-CSAM images. And you can imagine how the government would be very for this if they could start looking for things like, maybe the most wanted, maybe people with mugshots that they were looking for on the loose. You could see where law enforcement might want things that are, let's say, materials for making bombs and things like that. Law enforcement would love a tool like this and to be able to take it to the nth degree. But Apple's not saying that. Apple is simply working with the, for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's who they're working with. And, obviously they're going to be working with law enforcement to a degree. But, yeah, that's going to be, that's going to be the goal. Now, another point here is also the accuracy, where you think, oh, this could really mess people's lives up if, they have images on their phone that are not CSAM, and suddenly they get a knock on the door from the FBI. They're put on, the sexual offenders list. They have to jump through the legal wranglings of dealing with these issues, even if they don't have anything to do with them. Well, Apple also addressed that by saying that their system is so accurate that it would incorrectly flag any given account. It's less than 1 in 1 trillion per year. And that the company conducting a human review before sending any report to the National Center, saying that Apple concludes that the system errors or attacks will not result in innocent people being reported to NCMEC. And just because I didn't mention it this time, I talked a little bit about how it actually encrypts the photos using the same algorithm as already existing encrypted photos, and then it tries to compare the hashes and see if there's any kind of similarities or matches between the existing image and the new image. And again, that can include anything from the face, actual CSAM images and more. So it's doing all this comparing, but it only does this on children's iPhones, so there has to be like a parent-child iPhone kind of system set up, and it would kind of double check with the parent, especially if people are trying to make contact or send inappropriate images to a child or things like that. And then it would go through the regular process of, the parent consenting, the Apple approving it, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children following through on this. I'm like, there's a lot of steps in between before, Apple just says, oh, there's an inappropriate image on your phone. You are now reported to the FBI. No, there's a lot of checks and balances that happen in between. So do I think that this whole situation is, do I think it's going to work? The fact that there's a 1 in 1 trillion chance per year that it's going to raise a false flag tells me not so much that Apple has made the perfect algorithm, because that's really impossible. It tells me more that the strictness for the matches is set very, very low. And that strictness is probably going to be raised. Sometime in the future, next year, next couple of years, it will probably get, tighter and tighter and tighter until it starts getting, a little out of hand. But for now, I really don't see this as, very, 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 very few people are ever going to encounter the system at all. Like, even with perfect conditions met, this system is just designed to be very strict in a very certain set of circumstances. In the future, in the coming years, this will probably get more and more noticeable until they start seeing the results that they want to see. And, I'm very much for the end result, which is ending the spread of this material and protecting missing and exploited children, and hopefully, even leading to some of these kids that are missing. And if Apple can help with that, that's great. There's no one on earth that should be against anything that Apple is setting out to do here. Where people can disagree is, of course, on the method and the scanning of the photos, and this is something that has not been done before, as far as we know. I mean, this system may have been around surreptitiously for a long time, but As far as we know, this is the first of its kind, and it's hey, different is scary. Different is potentially abusable, and it's unfortunately one of those wait and sees. But like I said, even under perfect conditions, very few people will ever actually encounter the system. And I would even guess that the way that it's currently being kind of sold to people and implemented, no one listening to the show will actually encounter this in their lifetimes. It can change. It probably will change, but it's a tool that they want to at least start to try using. So there you go. And by the way, they Apple uploaded this document here, and this is really the main point of this whole thing. It's a 6-page PDF that Apple uploaded to their website, and it has everything from the overview, what are the differences between communication safety and messages and CSAM detection in iCloud photos. Essentially, it's a 6-page FAQ, and yeah, it's answers a lot of questions that journalists and other people have been asking. Yeah, how is this exploitable? Is this actually something? Is this something that people need to be worried about? And obviously, Apple's going to come back and say no. But it's nice that they were able to put out a document to address a number of these. Trying to see if there's any questions here that we didn't already answer. Yeah, things like, will parents be notified without children being warned and given a choice, which is, they say stuff like no, and it's to further that conversation between parents and kids. Does this mean that Apple is going to scan all the photos stored in my iPhone? They're saying no, by design, the feature only applies to photos that the user chooses to upload to the iCloud photos. Yep, so, and that was another key part that people might be missing, is that if you have photos that only exist on your iPhone and are not uploaded to the Apple Cloud or the iCloud, it would not check those photos. If anything, I'm honestly surprised that people are so concerned by this, because if it's on Apple's servers, on the iCloud, they have a responsibility to not host and distribute. They have a responsibility to not host and distribute child pornography. That is rule number one of being a server provider in the United States. Don't do that kind of crap. And for people to be like, oh, they're scanning all of our photos, how dare they? I'm surprised stuff like this hasn't happened before. And this seems like the most private way, short of comparing everyone's photos, saving them, and backing them up to inspect them later. This is definitely, it's hard to imagine it being anything other than a good thing that Apple is doing this. But it does start that system going of, kind of where does this take it to next? Because if this sees some kind of success, that there's going to be further and further implementation of stuff like this. But it's a good first step. As far as privacy goes, in its current form, I honestly like it. It's a very good thing. So, okay, there's story number 2, actually. Wow, we're making great time. Only 40 minutes into the program. But hey, I really do enjoy talking about stories like that have a little bit more to it. Clearly, you can see both sides, but I actually do enjoy that a lot. Now, this one may or may not be the same thing, and looking at some of the other stories, yeah, we can go ahead and talk about this one. Okay, Amazon. Always love to bash on Jeff Bezos because, let's face it, he's probably going to be the ruler of the United States here in a little bit. So get your punches in while you can. Amazon. Not so much Bezos, but the company. Amazon sellers are begging people to delete negative reviews and offering to double refunds if they do, a report says. And this is by Isabel Asher Hamilton of Business Insider. And they're saying that some Amazon sellers And by the way, Amazon seller tricks have been around forever to get good reviews on Amazon, because sellers know that if you have a lot of reviews, recent reviews, good reviews, then your product will sell a lot more than the competition. And some of the ways that they do this include sending you the item and essentially saying that, let's say the item costs like $5. They'll say, if you go to our site, leave a good positive 5-star review, send us proof that you did it, and we will refund your order for free. You get to keep the product, and we will refund you your money, and we both walk away happy. They essentially paid $5 in a roundabout way to get a 5-star review. That is from a legitimate person that won't be taken down later by a bot. Reviews sell products. Everyone knows it, and Amazon sellers are desperate for them. Now, there's a report from the Wall Street Journal that happened yesterday, how, it's really gotten to that point, saying that, and that's for good reviews. For bad reviews, it can be even worse. So, Wynn spoke to an Amazon customer named Catherine Scott, who in March bought a cooking oil spray bottle with a 4.5-star rating. The bottle arrived, but it squirted a stream of oil rather than spraying it. So, you can imagine, instead of like mist, it just did a stream. They mentioned that, so she left a negative review on Amazon. A week later, a person claiming to work for the brand that made the spray bottle emailed her offering a full refund and asking her to remove the review. The email also said that if Scott didn't reply, the company would assume she hadn't seen the email and would keep contacting her. A little bit desperate. I think that this company could do, with some dating advice. And it's that, if they don't respond the first time, maybe the second time, don't respond anymore, because they're just not that into you. Now, the email, so when Scott asked to have the refund, but to keep her review live, the company said it would repay her twice the item's value if she deleted the review. That is essentially paying for a good review. By paying for deleting bad ones, it's almost the same thing. Saying that a bad review is a fatal blow to us, the email said, according to the Journal, and the newspaper said it reviewed the emails. So Scott said that the company emailed her about the review for months. Most recently in July, Scott flagged the issue to Amazon, but it wasn't until Wynn contacted Amazon for her reporting that the listing was deleted. So, yeah, and Amazon sells millions of products every single day. It's not possible to monitor every one of these, and especially even complaints raised by legitimate customers. It's not really possible to do something like that. But when the squeaky wheel gets the grease, that kind of thing, as soon as someone brings their attention to it, I'm sure that they would then address it very quickly. But they can't do that for everything. It's just too big of a marketplace. Now, Scott, they said that another Amazon customer, Ben Hendon, told Wynn he received a similar offer after he left a bad review for a finger splint. The seller offered him $40 for the refund of a $17 splint, according to the Journal. Wynn found references to similar seller tactics in the reviews under oil spray bottles on Amazon, saying that seller offers 20 to 30 to delete negative reviews, said one review. Another said product doesn't work and company will bother you till you change your review. Clearly, it is something that is pretty common, especially in these certain kinds of ranges. And honestly, it's taking it a step further from what I've previously mentioned, even here in the article, saying that, we'll refund your money and you get to keep the product if you leave us a good review. This is taking a step further, saying that we will double your money if you take off your bad review. So it pays to be a bit of a complainer. Now, in April, the company stopped including customers' names and mailing addresses in its reports to third-party sellers. One former Amazon employee told Wynn that sellers used third-party tools to match customers' shipping information with email addresses, even though this violates Amazon's rules. Hey, again, if they have access to it, they're going to do it. Now, an Amazon spokesperson told the Journal that Amazon provides a great deal of help content, proactive coaching, warnings, and other assistance to sellers to ensure they remain compliant with our clearly stated policies. We have clear policies for both reviewers and selling partners that prohibit abuse of community features, and we suspend, ban, and take legal action against those who violate. They also mentioned that the bad actors make up a tiny fraction of the activity on Amazon. Now, with that being said, Amazon sellers are begging people to delete negative reviews. Yes, that happens. There are hundreds of thousands of people strong Facebook groups for selling and trading good reviews on Amazon. Amazon review scamming is a massive problem and has been a massive problem for a number of years. Has it gotten better? Probably not. In fact, I'm sure that whatever steps that Amazon is taking, and I'm sure that Amazon is trying to take steps. I know that, not too long ago, they implemented the verified purchaser badge on reviews. So people just couldn't come in and just leave reviews without actually purchasing the product. No, if you buy a product that is tied to an account that you leave the review with, then you get the little badge saying that, oh, this person actually bought it. They are trying to take steps to keep the legitimacy of the reviews intact. But I have seen way more articles and way more headlines, and just there's way more information out there to say that these third-party sellers know that the best way to sell their product is to game the system and get as high of a review, as many reviews as possible, so that your product gets put in front of as many people as possible. Just like fake likes, just like fake shares, just like fake engagement on Twitter, on Facebook, by bots and others, in a weird way, it kind of helps Amazon to not fully get a grasp on this, because it is engagement. It is people purchasing these products and using their platform and seeing all these amazing reviews. Yeah, in a weird way, it does help Amazon. Just like fake likes and fake shares on Facebook help Facebook in a roundabout way. So it's not the most pressing issue. It is something that they are working on, but are they doing enough? Are they doing everything that they possibly can? I highly doubt that they are. But hey, you got to start somewhere. And as always, everyone, be cautious, be careful of what you believe when it comes to Facebook reviews, or I'm sorry, not Facebook, Amazon reviews. They are being gamed, and they are being gamed constantly, and it will continue to be a problem. What they were talking about, for every person that kind of reported to the media or reported to Facebook, hey, if there's someone out there that bought a finger splint for $15 and the company said, we'll pay you $40 if you take down your review. Yeah, I bet you for every one person that reported to the media, there were many more people that did not report it to the media and actually took the money. It's a weird world that we live in, where a little star rating system means so much. But it truly is the difference between, hundreds of products sold and thousands upon thousands of products sold. Okay. How about, speaking of products sold, how about this one? Tesla, very quietly, so, all the media is talking about it, because whenever one of these things happens, it's just a glorified ad. But still, Tesla quietly delays Cybertruck to 2022. This is by John Fingus, saying that it's a setback you might have seen coming, and Tesla had already hinted that the 2021 target might not be realistic. Elon Musk said in January that there would only be a few deliveries of Cybertrucks in 2021, and that volume production was set for 2022. And while the company stuck to that claim in its July quarter report, the company only recently finished engineering design for the electric vehicle. it would have just a few months to finish development and ship the initial trucks. If it's anything like any other Tesla product, even with this report saying that they're delaying it to 2022, that's even by Tesla's own admission. So I'm betting 2023, 2024 before they really start to move these units. They say that the Cybertruck's cold-rolled steel body requires unique manufacturing techniques, and that's not including broader technical hurdles like the tri-motor system. Tesla is also known for optimistic timetables that clash with reality, and that the automakers can at least count on pent-up demand, though. With over 1 million Cybertruck reservations, Tesla could have plenty of demand, even if many of the would-be buyers have second thoughts. By the way, there are way more pre-orders than there are people who are actually going to buy them, because like pre-ordering one of these trucks was like $500 or like $100 or something like that. It was relatively cheap compared to the $30,000-$40,000 that this Cybertruck would actually cost. And there's a full refund policy. So if you don't go through, if you don't confirm that you want this truck, then you just cancel it and you get your pre-order money back. So I know a lot of people who simply pre-ordered one with, they're like, oh, maybe I win the lottery before this thing comes out, and I have my pre-order in. There's a lot of people that pre-ordered it with no intention of actually purchasing it unless something, truly fundamentally different happens. So, there is pent-up demand. I don't know how many of those are actually going to want these things, but yeah, 2022 even sounds pretty ambitious for Tesla in particular. So definitely have a wait and see kind of attitude with that one. So for our next story, we only have time for like two more if we're quick about this. Let's talk about, okay. Let's do a little bit for Samsung here. Samsung and their event that should be coming up here really, really soon. And that has to do with, let's see. So it has to do with, this one. Samsung and their next event that they are hosting. And that is the August Unpacked event. Saying that here's what we kind of expect for them to unveil. And this is happening in 2 days. So Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to do our best to kind of keep track of this. But man, that's early. But hey, wait and see. Samsung is expected to announce new additions to its high-end line of folding Galaxy Z Fold and Z Flip phones. I have to give credit to Samsung for one thing. Folding phones have not caught on like I think they wish that they did. They're too expensive and they're too fragile. There's a lot of problems with manufacturing. I get it. The units fail a lot. There's a lot of moving parts to actually break. They have to make their money, but for these things that cost $1,800 to $2,000 to $2,200, they're just not the biggest sellers. So the price has to come down, but respect where it's kind of due. Samsung is sticking to it, and that's very admirable. That they see the promise of this new technology, and they're still trying to push it as best they can. But still, so a couple of things that they're looking to kind of add here include the Galaxy Z Fold 3 is gaining a major note feature, and that is stylus support. So right there in the bend, you can see here in a leaked image, right there in the bend of the phone is a stylus that you can pull out and of course use, because these things are essentially small tablets. So a stylus, and of course it's Samsung, styluses are almost expected in their phones. They're saying that bundled in its stylus reveal, Samsung also confirmed that the new Fold and Flip will feature improved durability, which is great, with rumors of an IPX8 water resistance, and I believe 8 means that it can go up to, I think 7 means that it's like splash resistant, and 8 means that it can go up to like 3 meters in water, which is highly water resistant. That's actually very impressive that they were able to get that kind of rating. Otherwise, it seems like the Fold will feel like a yet more refined version of the previous 2 models, and everything included with a 7.55-inch interior folding screen and a 6.23-inch external screen. And this is the one, by the way, if you're looking at the video portion of the show, you can see here almost like an old clamshell phone. It folds out like that, so it's almost like it's a very tall, slim phone. It's not like a fold out tablet kind of deal. So there you go. They mentioned that the Galaxy Z Flip 3 has a tweaked design and a larger cover screen, as we mentioned before, and this is the Flip that you can see here. So the other one was the Fold, which is more of a traditional tablet, and then the Flip is more like a flip phone, a clamshell. Let's see. So the interior screen of the Flip 3 is rumored to be the same 6.5-inch display as the original Z Flip, but with a new 120 hertz refresh rate, blah, 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 a little bit faster, same 8 gigs of RAM, powered by a Snapdragon 888, so a little bit faster, all that good stuff. So let's see, other rumors include a new Galaxy Watch that will fit more users' wrists. So, yep, you can see that there. And that's also super important because it's supposed to give things like blood pressure and pulse and other activity kind of things. So, more users' wrists, definitely a good thing. They also mentioned that new Galaxy Buds 2 with improved sound in a variety of colors, because if Apple showed us anything as well, is that, well, adding color to a lifeless tech world definitely does some good. So there you go. If you're looking forward to that, we'll certainly cover that as best we can. Probably won't dedicate a whole show to it, but we'll definitely go piece by piece with the official reveal. But that's what we're expecting, so there you go. Okay, I think that's one thing I really like, and it doesn't get a lot of coverage, but I always like to check it out whenever it pops up in my feed, and that is unique hacking methods. So check this one out. We'll try to get through this before the end of the show, but they're saying that a new class of passive Tempest attack converts LED output into intelligible audio. So they say that this is a new Glowworm attack. Recovers audio from devices power LEDs. So researchers at the Ben Gurion University of the Negev, have demonstrated a novel way to spy on electronic conversations. A new paper released today outlines a novel passive form of the Tempest attack called Glowworm, which converts minute fluctuations in the intensity of power LEDs on speakers and USB hubs back into the audio signals that cause those fluctuations. So that's pretty cool. The Cyber at BGU team analyzed a broad array of widely used consumer devices, including smart speakers and simple PC speakers and USB hubs. The team found that the device's power indicator LED were generally influenced perceptively by audio signals fed through the attached speakers. So you can see the kind of demonstration that they have set up here. And for everyone that can't really see, it's they have kind of the attack module that is looking at the optical sensor that is looking at the LED on a USB hub right there, and it's aimed directly at it. And then they, of course, have a camera that is also set up to look at these two speakers through a glass door, so that, the attack vector would be, like 15 feet. And obviously, if you see a research team setting up a very sensitive camera rig right outside your window, you would be suspicious. So it's not the most concerning hack, but it is kind of a proof of concept at the moment. And of course, you can see here, They use different speakers, including the Logitech Z120s, the Mirror Case USB hub, Winner speakers, TP-Link USB hub, Raspberry Pi, with all of the different frequency and hertz and the SNR, so the sound that they are generated. Essentially, let's see. So they mentioned that Glowworm requires no unexpected signal leakage or intrusion, even while actively in use. Unlike the Thing was a Soviet gift to the U.S. ambassador in Moscow, which both required illumination and broadcast a clear signal while illuminated. It was a carved wooden copy of the U.S. Great Seal, and it contained a resonator that, if lit up with a radio signal at a certain frequency, would then broadcast a clear audio signal via radio. The actual device was completely passive. It worked a lot like a modern RFID chip, and yeah, there you go. So they mentioned that the attack's complete yeah, we're out of time. That's not good. They mentioned that the attack's complete passiveness distinguishes it from similar approaches, such as a laser microphone that can pick up audio and needs to go through a window pane, but defenders can potentially spot the attacker using smoke or vapor, which would be the laser signal, that whole thing. Long story short, point a camera at an LED and it picks up very, very sensitive fluctuations as the power goes through the speakers or the USB hub to generate the audio, and then you can decode the audio. So you can eavesdrop on conversations, you can decode these things. Very, very cool, very, very interesting setup. Not practical, but it is possible, and that's the important part. Everyone, we're about out of time. Thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Tune in tomorrow. We should have a special segment. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.